Today I guess I'm talking about this TCG idea thingy that I had. Like I had an idea, then I had another idea, then another idea. So I just decided to write it all down in a Microsoft Word document, which usually I don't really do, but that's why I'm using Microsoft Edge. Because I can't figure out how to do it otherwise. This is like quick skim. I was thinking like a sort of maybe like real history, like medieval era, early modern era, like warfare, empire building sort of theme for the TCG. Not entirely sure, but like that was just kind of like the thematic idea I kind of had because like history's cool and all. But like I was just thinking about mechanics, so I decided I'll make a YouTube video, I suppose, and I'm using Microsoft Word and not like Google Docs or anything because Google just keeps on integrating AI into everything, and I am just done with Google Docs, at least. Like, Google Docs, I cannot let myself use it. It's got Gemini in everything. Like, if I'm, like, using a Google Doc, I don't want Gemini in there. Like, but I digress. So, like, I was thinking, like, sort of a medieval, early modern era empire building battle TCG type theme. Then I kind of wanted, like, an archetype system, like most TCGs have, I suppose, but, like, reward certain, like, empires or families or whatever for using cards for their empire, family, whatever. So, like, Austrian, Bohemian, Hungarian, Iberian theme for Habsburgs versus more, like, Slavic theme for Russia or something. I don't know. Definitely a work in progress. But I was also thinking, like, rather than doing the standard like magical resource that we in this sort of game, we could like make some sort of economy system, and like rather than just wanting to win by defeating your opponent, like this is like a maybe like a longer like empire building type game. So like it's more about like alliances and stuff. Maybe I'm not entirely sure about the alliances part, but like you're kind of like slowly defeating your opponent over and over again. Maybe you lose some battles, maybe you win some battles, maybe you lose some wars, win some wars, but in the end, what you're working on is becoming like the hegemon or whatever. But I'm not sure, maybe I'll just do a straight up like, you win this war, you win the whole game, but I don't know. I feel like maybe like winning like on the like field and defeating your opponent like gives you some sort of benefit, but doesn't like make you win. Like you have to like focus on like outcompeting them in resources, I guess, like industry, maybe resources, economy, maybe like you need to just constantly have a bigger army. Maybe there's other things. I don't know. I'll think about all of this sort of things later. But that's kind of like an idea I had because of this like historical theme. Like in like history, just having like winning a war, you could not just annex the country you were fighting until like the modern era. In the modern era, you kind of can, but again, it's still kind of hard. But like in like medieval era politics and pre-modern era politics and like early modern era politics, like in all these politics, there was so many other powers, like major powers, even minor powers, that you needed to take into account before like going around annexing stuff, land and stuff, and adding them to your empire. Because otherwise, people would just team up to take you down and like overthrow you, basically. But if you become a hegemon, then you don't really need to worry about that sort of thing. But like, and that's kind of like what defined like modern politics to be so different. Like Germany became kind of a hegemon of Europe and kind of just conquered all of Europe, and then it got defeated, and then Russia and the US became like huge hegemons around the world. But then, even then, they kind of like needed to think about each other. That's why I was saying it's a bit more complicated than that. But now there's like China, the US, Russia, the Europeans, like all competing. But like, this would be more like about early modern era medieval. I'm not sure exactly like the time period. I'd have to think about that. Maybe I do like different like sets based off of different time periods, but I'll think about that later. But like basically like your goal is not to win a few battles, it's to like just defeat your enemy in some other way. That's what I was thinking. So maybe like some sort of economy system, and that could also be used to like maybe place cards, like maybe hire soldiers, maybe do other things, maybe invest in your economy. I don't know. But yeah, that's what I was kind of thinking, and I was like kind of thinking like if we do like a more historical like soldier theme for like your kind of like attackers slash defenders for the game or whatever. We could like have the like two levels of discard pile slash graveyard. Where when a soldier is killed, you can maybe like nurse them back to health in some way, like using medics and stuff, like in history or doctors, all that sort of thing. Medicine, like to keep your soldier like alive and ready to go back in, and like maybe you could like nurse it back to health in some way. And like in Yu-Gi-Oh, Magic the Gathering, other TCGs with cards like Reborn the Monster, which is class, so that's why I'm mentioning specifically it. But um, like I'm like thinking of making it more common and powerful, but also like maybe removing it from the game easier, like fully removing. Like in Yu-Gi-Oh, I think it's called banishing. I don't know what it's called in Magic the Gathering, but like once it's like in that area, there's no way to really do anything with it. Except Yu-Gi-Oh has kind of broken that with its banishment zone from when I was playing. Like I was playing like years ago, but like so I kind of stopped because of like the whole oh now we're gonna banish your entire field. Now I'm gonna pull cards out of my banishment zone. So they created a whole other level called banishing face down to like make it even harder to banish things slash unbanish things. But I think, but like, I'm gonna guess that now there's probably a way to mess with face down banishments or whatever. But in this game, I'm thinking I probably should like not actually like mess with my banishment quote unquote zone really. Like because the dead are dead unless I decide to like actually do some sort of fantasy theme, but that'd be like way later in the game because like obviously I want to make it more grounded in reality at least for like a while, and maybe like in the future I'll do like some sets where it's more fantasy leaning, and maybe and then I can find like some sort of like sci-fi or necromancy sort of way to revive the real dead. But I'll think about it. But that's also far for future. That's just notes. And but I was looking for YouTube about like some of the things I wrote down, and I found a game called Zombie World Order TCG from 2017 with similar looking mechanic. I kind of like pulled off a PDF of the rule book, like the rule manual for 1.0. It's like a big PDF with a bunch of rules, and that's kind of like what I'm basing off like the other notes about this game. Um, for just giving you like my source, I just found it by basically googling. But this game looks like a zombie apocalypse themed Magic the Gathering clone in pretty much every way. Just when a but like when a zombie dies, it gets sent to a different area of the board from the dead area or discard pile. Um, like I didn't word that well in my notes. Okay, when it dies, it gets sent to a different area of the board. It's instead of like the attacking part of your board, and then there's also your discard pile. But you don't send your now defeated zombies to the discard pile. You just keep them in a separate part of your board, and each zombie has like a revival cost in addition to their base summoning cost. And basically, in this game, instead of tapping like land cards, when reviving, you summon like when you summon a zombie, which you do like basically tap this game's land cards. Instead, you can pay the revival cost, which is a different number, I'm pretty sure, most of the time, by flipping your land cards face down, which they then can be flipped up instead of playing a new land card if you wish to, because, like in most resource-heavy games, you only can do one resource card per turn. And though this game, any card is a resource card, but, like, when they're face down, they can technically be still used, but they're colorless um, they're a colorless resource instead of a colored resource, which if you like know Magic the Gathering, you know that the different colors are like you need the specific colors on your card in order to summon your cards. So that's kind of why it matters. Um, um, but yeah, also they don't have any abilities when you play them as a land, sort of. And there's definitely might be some mechanics I'm missing. Like if there is any, it's in this this PDF on scribd.com, but yeah, I could not be bothered to read much more about this really old game with that's basically just an MTG ripoff with a bit of a unique mechanic, which I'm kind of thinking of like maybe working with, but I'm not sure. Now, another idea I had for a mechanic was like maybe cards can move in like an actual spatial way, kind of like in D&D rather than a TCG, to make it more feel like more realistic battles where there's encirclements, like sieges, all that sort of things, and where your troops kind of want a position to chase down your opponents and defend and retreat, all that sort of stuff. I was thinking maybe some sort of speed stat in addition to other stats on the card, and like like maybe like twice to turn to every 3 turns, like depending on like the type of unit you'd be using, because in history like there's cavalry I'm just gonna call them cav, which are basically people riding horses. Then there's like there's artillery, which I'm assuming would be like pretty stationary if I did end up making that type of card, and then like long range as well. But then there was archers, which couldn't really move much because they had to attack with their bow. So if something came up to them close, combat wise, they'd kind of like be a bit cooked. But like, then there's like heavy infantry, and then there's light infantry, and there's all that sort of thing. So like, I'm not entirely sure how to flesh this sort of thing off, but I'm thinking about it. Okay, this is all like complete like maybe I want to make rules for this sort of idea I had, and all the theming, all the rules, they're all kind of up in the air entirely. I think I'll like work on like actually fleshing it out at some point, but I don't know if I'm gonna do that. This is just kind of like a way to like just maybe be a bit creative for a bit at least. Maybe I'll make a TCG, maybe I won't. But here are like some card effects I was thinking of. Um, but but like I kind of just put basic ones like drawing. I was thinking of maybe healing if like I don't like make like maybe if I don't like use um your economy to revive cards, then you could heal things using cards. But then I also thought like maybe you could have like a special type of soldier that like reduces the cost because you paid them, but now they'll like be like an expert and won't need as much medicine as your regular medics that are free with whatever. Or you could like have like medicine cards that cost source, but like decrease resource for a few turns, maybe. I don't know. I'm trying to think. Like everything's kind of up in the air. But then I also kind of thought of like a regular discarding slash milling effect. Also, this like really specific idea where like when played, set a whatever attacking card there is in the TCG's attack stat to like 10 or 1/100, maybe even 1,000 if I like do really big numbers first. But like I was thinking like if it's like Magic the Gathering, like stat wise, where it goes like max, I think like I don't know what the max in Magic the Gathering is, but like usually you're like a 1 to 6 attack. So like maybe like if Magic the Gathering level like single digits or double digits only, it goes down to a 1. Or if it's like maybe in the hundreds, maybe it can be like in the 90s to 200s for like stuff, but maybe even higher. I'm not entirely sure. But then I'd set it to 10 or 100 if I'm doing like more Yu-Gi-Oh like style attack stats. But I don't know what the power level of the game is going to be, and I have to think about that a lot. But then this would just be for a turn, and then you can choose another card, and they can attack twice during the same turn as your card that you've chosen to weaken. But I need to think about this a lot further. So honestly, the only reason I'm really making this a video is like to see what you guys have for ideas. For like this sort of maybe I make a game. I could like also do art at some point for this game. I'm not the best at art, but I could like do like bad art on purpose, like for concept art at least, and then maybe I could pay an actual artist to make more serious art if I want to, or I could just work really hard, improve my own art skills, but then still have like mediocre art. But that'd be better than nothing, you know. I don't know if I really want to pay that much for just a silly like idea, but like we'll see. Um, and Another thought I have is like if you guys have any like video ideas for me, maybe comment those. So like if you have ideas for rules, mechanics, stuff for this TCG, comment that. If you actually are interested in like me talking about this TCG I might be working on, then comment that, because that might actually make me more likely to work on the TCG than if I'm just doing it by myself or with my friends, you know? And then if you have any ideas for videos, just comment that. Like, I kind of put a community post, whatever it's called, on like my channel where I was like, I've kind of been like inactive, but I don't really have much ideas for videos. So this was kind of like a spur of the moment idea I had with when watching YouTube videos, where I like was like, wouldn't this be an interesting idea for a mechanic? So then I wrote another mechanic, and then I wrote another mechanic, and then I looked more on YouTube and stuff and things. But like, obviously, it's not very fleshed out. I'll think about it more. If you guys have any suggestions, comments, whatever, comment them down below, or I don't know, contact me some other way, I guess. I don't know. It's not like I have like really other social media. I mean, I've Discord, but like obviously I'm not telling you guys my Discord username unless I really need to. I mean, you could probably guess, but at the same time, I don't know if I really want random DMs, you know. But anyways, I think that's all. Now I have no idea how to stop recording because this is a new computer, and I'm just like, is this it? Yeah.